The sound of soft crying was the first thing Marcus heard as he stepped into his penthouse. It wasn't loud, not wailing, just a small, broken sound, like something precious had been crushed. He set down his briefcase and moved quietly across, the marble floors, his shoes clicking too sharply in the silence. The sun was setting outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting long amber shadows across the sleek interior. The kind of golden hour that used to make Lila dance in the light. But today, she sat in a corner of the living room, knees pulled, to her chest, her tiny frame shaking. If this story resonated with you, subscribe to the channel and spread the word and tell us where you're watching from. Marcus dropped to his knees beside her. "Lila?" he asked, gently brushing a curl from her damp cheek. "Sweetheart, what happened?" She didn't look up. She just held out a crumpled piece of paper, torn in half, jagged edges across what used to be a colorful drawing. He carefully unfolded it, trying to piece it back together. A stick-figure woman with curly brown hair, Maria the nanny, stood smiling next to Lila, beneath a bright sun and lopsided hearts. Across the top in purple marker, Lila had scrawled, "I love you, Maria, please come back." Marcus blinked. Who did this?" he asked, his voice steady, too steady. Lila didn't answer. She just hugged herself tighter. He stood, walked, over to the wall-mounted panel and tapped into the home surveillance system. Living room. Afternoon feed. He watched. There was Lila, sitting cross-legged at the coffee table, carefully coloring. Alina entered the frame, elegant, polished, perfect. In her cream silk robe, she walked behind Lila, looked down, paused. Then without a word, she plucked the drawing from the table and, eyes cold, expression unreadable, ripped it once, twice, then dropped the pieces into the trash. She left as silently as she came. Marcus froze, rewound, watched again, the same chilling calm, the same deliberate cruelty. The woman he was supposed to marry in 8 days had just destroyed a child's love letter like it was garbage. Not in anger, not in haste, with intent. He stood motionless, the air in the room suddenly heavier, colder. The hum of the city below felt distant, like he was suspended outside his own life. His daughter had watched her future stepmother tear apart the one thing that made her feel safe, and said nothing, because she was afraid. Marcus walked back to Lila and sat beside her, this time wrapping an arm gently around her trembling shoulders. "I saw," he whispered. She turned slowly, wide brown eyes searching his face. "I won't let anyone hurt you. Ever again." He kissed the top of her head, heart pounding, mind reeling. 8 days to a wedding, 8 days to a vow. And now, everything had changed. Marcus lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling as the city lights flickered across the glass walls of his bedroom. Lila had fallen asleep beside him, curled against his side, clutching a stuffed rabbit Maria had given her. He hadn't let her return to her own room. His mind wouldn't stop replaying the footage, the deliberate way Alina tore the drawing, the stillness in her face, the silence. No anger, no words, just the quiet execution of a child's joy. He tried to remember when the first shadow fell between them. It was just over a year ago, at a tech gala in San Francisco. Marcus had been on stage, accepting an award he didn't care about, still wearing the ache of grief like a second skin. His wife, Elise, had died 14 months earlier in a car crash that nearly broke him. He was still learning how to breathe without her when Alina approached him at the after-party, champagne in hand, eyes bright, a dazzling smile cutting through his sorrow like light through fog. "I know who you are," she'd said, confident, "but I don't think you know who you are anymore." It was the first time someone had seen through him, or so he thought. She was sharp, composed, magnetic. Within weeks, they were inseparable. Alina moved into the penthouse 6 months later. Friends raised eyebrows. "It's too fast," they said. "Think of Lila." But Marcus had wanted to believe that love could return, that Elise would want him to live again. At first, Alina had seemed patient with Lila. Not warm exactly, but cordial. She bought her toys, smiled politely when Lila showed her drawings. But that smile, Marcus saw it now, never touched her eyes. Then came the suggestions. Lila's too attached to Maria. You should spend more time just the two of us. It's not healthy, clinging to the past. Marcus had defended the nanny, but Alina had pressed harder after every dinner party, every polite social gathering where someone called Maria practically family. I'm not trying to replace. Elise, she once said softly, but how can we build something new when your life is still filled with her echoes? He hadn't known how to argue with that. 2 months ago, Maria resigned unexpectedly. No warning. Just a note on the kitchen counter and the house key left beside it. Lila cried for days. Alina told Marcus not to make a scene. We'll find someone new, she'd said, pouring wine with a measured hand. Maria was too sentimental. That word again. Sentimental. Like emotion was a weakness. Marcus rubbed his eyes now, sitting up in bed. Alina hadn't come home that evening, claimed she was having a late spa appointment and staying at the bridal suite overnight to avoid bad luck. But suddenly, it felt like he didn't know where she really was, or who she really was. His phone buzzed on the nightstand, a message from an unknown number. You don't know what she's capable of. Marcus's blood ran cold. The message replayed in Marcus's mind like a drumbeat. You don't know what she's capable of. No name, no follow-up, just those 8 words and the icy aftertaste they left behind. But it wasn't the text that kept him awake. It was Lila. In the last few weeks, she had stopped humming when she drew, stopped asking about bedtime stories. Her sparkle, gone. Marcus had chalked it up to missing Maria, the upcoming wedding, the pressure of change. Kids were resilient, right? Until the accident started. The bedwetting had been the first red flag. She hadn't done that in years. Then the nightmares. Blood-curdling screams in the middle of the night, waking up soaked in sweat, crying for mommy, even though Elise had been gone almost 2 years. And now... Silence. Lila, Marcus said softly one morning, kneeling beside her at the kitchen island. Is there something you want to tell me? About anything? She just shrugged, eyes fixed on her untouched bowl of cereal. Her small fingers nervously twisted the sleeve of her sweater. Later that day, he received a call from the school counselor, Ms. Jefferson. Polite but concerned. Mr. Westbrook, I'm not trying to alarm you, she said in a calm, measured tone. But we've noticed changes in Lila. She's more withdrawn, more guarded. Is everything okay at home? Marcus exhaled slowly, one hand rubbing the back of his neck. It's been a transition. Her nanny left. The wedding's coming up. Maybe it's just a lot. That's possible, Ms. Jefferson said, but sometimes children internalize stress in more complicated ways, especially if there's tension between caregivers. Has anything changed? Emotionally. He hesitated, thought about the torn drawing, the surveillance footage, the message. We're okay, he said. A lie, dressed as reassurance. Ms. Jefferson paused. If you ever want to talk, or if Lila wants to, we're here. Children have a way of telling the truth in everything except words. The phrase stuck with him. That evening, as he tucked Lila in, he noticed she'd drawn something new. A tiny figure of herself standing under a black cloud, rain falling around her. Alone. Lila, he said gently, pointing. What's this cloud? She didn't speak. Just tucked the drawing under her pillow and turned on her side. He sat on the edge of the bed, trying not to let the heaviness in his chest crush him. You know you can always talk to me, right? Anything. Even if it's scary. She nodded slowly, back still turned. A long silence passed. Then just as he began to rise, her voice came, barely a whisper, so faint he almost missed it. She said, I don't belong here. He froze. She? He asked, sitting back down. Who said that, baby? But she had curled into herself again, silent, fragile, and that silence was louder than anything. Marcus waited until Lila was at school the next morning before pulling up Maria's number. His fingers hovered above the call, button longer than he liked to admit. She had worked for their family since Lila was 2. After Elise's death, Maria became more than a nanny. She was Lila's comfort, her routine, her calm. And then, just like that, she was gone. He dialed. It rang twice before she answered. "Hello?" Her voice was quiet, tense. "Maria, it's me, Marcus," he said quickly. I need to talk to you, please." A long pause. "I can't," she said finally. "I'm sorry, Mr. Westbrook, I shouldn't have picked up." Marcus's pulse quickened. "Maria, something's not right. Lila's not herself, she told me. Someone said she doesn't belong here." Another silence. He could almost hear her breathing on the line. She began, then stopped. "I shouldn't get involved. I really can't. Please don't call again." "Maria, did Alina say something to you? Did she do something? Please, I need to." "No." But the line had already gone dead. He stared at the screen for several seconds, stunned by the finality of it. That wasn't guilt. That was fear. And fear meant there was something to fear. He sat down in Lila's room, scanning the small space. Unicorn stickers, soft blankets, a shelf of her favorite books. He'd made sure her world was soft and safe, but something had slipped in through the cracks. That's when he saw it. Her old tablet. A clunky, paint-smeared thing Maria had helped her set up to record little songs, bedtime stories, or video messages. It had been untouched for weeks, buried under a pile of books. He powered it on, battery low. One video in the drafts folder, time-stamped 2 weeks ago, Lila's birthday. He opened it. The screen flickered to life, revealing Maria's tear-streaked face. She was holding the tablet low, whispering as if she didn't want to be heard. "Hi, mi amor. I'm sorry I can't say goodbye in person," she whispered, her voice cracking. "But I have to go. I don't want to, but it's not safe anymore. Not for me. Maybe not for you either." Marcus's throat tightened. Maria glanced off screen, visibly startled by something, or someone. Her voice dropped lower. "She's not who she says she is. Don't trust her. Be brave. Remember what I taught you. When you feel scared, hide and stay quiet. And draw. Draw how you feel. I'll find a way to check on you when it's safe." The video cut out mid-sentence. Marcus sat frozen, the tablet still in his hands. The implications hit him like a wave. Maria hadn't left voluntarily. She had fled. Why? He looked around again, this time seeing the room differently. Not a child sanctuary, but a crime scene in slow motion. Lila hadn't told him what was happening because she couldn't, and Maria hadn't warned him because she wasn't allowed to. Whatever was going on, it wasn't just jealousy or control. It was deeper, darker, a pattern, and patterns leave trails. He tapped the tablet again and opened the drawing app. There, saved in the gallery, was one picture he hadn't seen before. A stick figure of a woman with long black hair standing over, a small girl with a red X over her mouth. Behind them, a second figure watched from the corner. Crying. Marcus stared at it. Maria had been right. Lila had been telling him all along. The air in the penthouse felt different now, heavy, brittle. Marcus moved through it like a man underwater, every step slow with dread. The video on Lila's tablet had cracked something wide open, and he could no longer pretend this was paranoia. Maria had fled in fear. His daughter had drawn warnings, in silence. And Alina. Alina had smiled through it all. She was out for the day again, prepping at the spa for a dress fitting. Last week of freedom, she'd joked that morning. But freedom for whom? Marcus walked past the main bedroom and into the guest suite, the room Alina had claimed as her bridal base, cluttered with silk garment bags, beauty kits, and designer boxes. On the far wall stood a sleek white dresser. Second drawer. From the bottom, never quite opened. She'd once told him it was jammed, it wasn't. He jiggled the handle and felt resistance, a latch, locked, mechanical. His pulse quickened. He knelt, checking the sides, then reached behind the drawer. His fingers grazed a tiny metal hook. Retractable, spring-loaded. Alina had always underestimated his patience. With a delicate push and twist, the lock gave way. The drawer opened with a soft click. Inside, a manila envelope, a plain black flip, phone and a small stack of crisp documents neatly bundled with a leather tie. He pulled them out one by one. The envelope held printed bank statements, withdrawals, transfers, all under the name Alina Moreau. Not Alina Gray, the name she'd told him was hers. The accounts were active, and the most recent transaction was just days ago, a $50,000 wire transfer to a law firm in Miami. He swallowed hard. The black flip phone was powered off. Burners like that weren't for FaceTime calls. He made a mental note to charge it later, then the final bundle, thick pages marked confidential at the bottom. He opened the first page. It was a private investigator's report. On him, Marcus Westbrook, profile overview, net worth, 122-meter primary holdings, Westbrook Tech Metrosys family, deceased spouse, Elise Westbrook, child, Lila Westbrook. The next pages were deeper. Property titles, press clippings, litigation history, old employee reviews, even a snapshot of Lila's school, every intimate detail of his life, cataloged like a case file. Marcus stood still, staring at the paper, the corners shaking in his hands. This wasn't a fiancé preparing for marriage. This was a predator preparing for acquisition. His mind raced back to small moments, Alina's insistence on a prenup she'd write herself, her pressure to cut off Maria, the perfectly timed compassion she'd shown when he was most broken. It wasn't love. It was design. He stuffed the documents into a canvas bag and returned everything else as it was. Closed the drawer. Locked it again. As he turned to leave the room, something stopped him. A framed photo on the nightstand. One of her and Lila, posed laughing. Only now he saw it. Alina's hand wasn't resting gently on Lila's shoulder. It was holding it, firm, controlling, and Lila's smile, forced. He picked up the frame. The back felt oddly thick. He opened it. Tucked behind the photo was a folded receipt from a pawn shop in Nevada, dated 2 years before they'd met. The name listed, Elena Moore. Another alias, another life. Marcus stepped back, dizzy. The walls felt narrower now. He needed answers. He needed history. And somewhere out there, someone had it. The email came just after midnight. Subject line: She wasn't always called Alina. Marcus stared at it, fingers hovering over the mouse, chest tight. It had landed in his private inbox, the one used only by legal board members, and a few trusted friends. The sender was anonymous, the address scrambled. Inside was a single sentence. If you still have the photo frame, check the barcode on the receipt. He didn't sleep. By 2 a.m., he was seated at his desk magnifying the faded barcode using a digital scanner. The numbers traced back to a pawn shop in Henderson, Nevada, real, still operating. He called the number listed on the website. Tired voice picked up. Pete's Pawn. Marcus kept his tone neutral. I'm trying to verify a transaction from 2021. Item ID 39827. It belonged to someone named Elena Moore. There was a pause. Shuffling papers. Then, yeah, came in February. She sold off a silver locket and a wedding ring. Paid cash. Didn't say much. Marcus's stomach twisted. By dawn, another message arrived in his inbox. This one with an attached photo. 2 young women, early 20s, standing together in a sunlit kitchen. One of them unmistakably Alina, darker hair, thinner frame, same icy eyes. The other woman, freckles, lighter hair, a softer smile, had a hand around her waist. Caption: L plus Lena, Thanksgiving 2015. Below, a message: I'm L. I don't know who she's pretending to be now, but I knew her when she was still real, and I barely survived it. If you want the truth, meet me at 4 Gours today. Cafe Grange. Come alone. Marcus read it 3 times. Then he cleared his calendar. Cafe. Grange sat tucked on a quiet side street in an old part of town, far from Alina's luxury world. He arrived early, scanned the patio. At 4:07, a woman in jeans and a long rust-colored coat stepped inside. Same face from the photo. Just older, wearier, Elle. She approached cautiously, eyes flicking around like someone used to watching exits. You came, she said, sliding into the booth. I need answers, Marcus replied, voice low, starting with her real name. Elle exhaled. Elena Moore, born in Utah, changed her name after she left our family, after she left me. Why? Ella hesitated. Because Elena doesn't love. She studies. She mirrors. She finds people who have something she wants, and becomes exactly what they need until she has it. Marcus didn't interrupt. She did it with my dad, my stepmom, a boyfriend of mine. One by one, they disappeared from my life or lost everything. And when she left town after our mother died, she cut off every trace. I spent years trying to track her. She resurfaced in Miami as Anna Grayson, then in LA as Alina Gray. Always clean, always charming, always one step ahead. Marcus's throat tightened. What happened to your boyfriend? Ella looked down. Her voice broke. He vanished. Officially ruled a runaway. But he told me he was scared of her before he disappeared, that she was getting darker, controlling, like she was preparing something. And you think she's doing it again? With me? Elle met his eyes. I know she is. That little girl of yours. She won't stop with gaslighting her. She'll erase her. Marcus sat back, reeling. How do I stop her? Elle leaned in. You don't confront her directly. You document. You build your case. And when the mask cracks, you run fast and take the kid with you. Marcus didn't answer. But his silence said everything. The cafe had emptied around them, shadows stretching long across the floor. Ella reached into her coat and slid a cracked Android phone across the table. It's old, but it still plays, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I've held onto it for years. Didn't know what to do with it. I thought maybe one day someone else would believe me. Marcus picked it up carefully, as if it might burn. She recorded it herself? He asked. L.A. nodded. My daughter, June, she was 8 when it happened. She's 13 now, still won't talk about that year. He powered on the phone. The screen flickered, sluggish but functional. A single audio file sat in the folder titled Don't Tell. He tapped play. A young voice filled the silence. Shaky, tearful, whispering like she feared someone hearing. It's dark. I can't see the stairs anymore. She said if I screamed, she'd take away my music forever. She said Mommy left because I was bad. Marcus gripped the phone tighter. Auntie Alina said I had to stay quiet, that it was a game. But I know it's not. I want to go home, please. Mommy, I want to go home. Click. The recording ended. He stared at the screen for a long moment, the silence afterward louder than any scream. Elle wiped the corner of her eye with her sleeve. That voice, that's what finally made me stop protecting her. I took June and ran. No custody battle, no lawyers. I just disappeared. I knew if I stayed, Alina would twist it all. Marcus sat back in the booth, as if the weight of the phone had sunk into his bones. Why hasn't she been arrested? If this happened, why isn't she in prison? Ella gave a hollow laugh. Because there's no proof she locked the door, no bruises, no visible harm, and she's smart. Never keeps anyone close long enough to draw suspicion. She's a ghost with perfect lipstick and an airtight smile. Marcus thought of Lila's recent drawings, her whispers, the broken sparkle in her eyes. He remembered Alina's tenderness that first month, how she always made sure he had sleep, water, food, everything Elise had given him. Only now did he realize how perfectly engineered that comfort had been. She's not just cold, Marcus murmured. She's calculating, strategic. She's a shapeshifter, Elle said. Whatever you need her to be, she becomes. Until she owns the version of you she created. Marcus stared down at the phone. I have to get Lila away from her. You can't run without a plan. She'll flip it, paint you unstable. She's done it before. Ella reached into her coat, again, and handed him a small envelope. Start here. It's from someone who used to work for her. Someone who got too close. He sent me this before he vanished. Marcus tucked it away, nodding silently. His thoughts raced. He'd been prepared to marry this woman in 4 days. Now, he was preparing for war. Back at the penthouse, he crept into the master bedroom. Alina wasn't home yet. The vanity mirror glinted in the soft glow of the hallway. He remembered something. Weeks ago, Lila had said, "She talks to the mirror when she thinks I'm asleep." He moved toward it slowly, unscrewed the frame backing. Inside, tucked deep in the wooden slat, was a voice recorder. He pressed play. The static cleared. Then Alina's voice, cold and measured. "She's in the way, just like the last one." Marcus's blood turned to ice. Marcus sat at the edge of the bed, phone in hand, every muscle in his body wound tight. Alina's voice still echoed in his ears. "She's in the way, just like the last one." He stared into the front-facing camera and hit record. "Hey babe, just wanted to say I'm sorry for being distant lately. The wedding stuff, it's a lot. I think I just needed a breather. You're doing amazing. I love you. Can't wait to see you in white." He smiled at the end, plastic practiced, then hit send. It took everything in him not to throw the phone across the room. The mask had to stay on now. He had just 2 days left before the wedding, and every moment mattered. Marcus stood, walked to the balcony, and called the man his legal team used for private security. Noah Creel, former military, now running quiet protection for high-net-worth families. "I need a detail. Discreet. Someone to stay with my daughter at all times." Marcus said, "Is this a custody issue?" Noah asked, voice clipped. "No, not yet. But I'm not waiting for it to become one. She's not safe. And I don't want the person in question knowing they're being watched." By evening, a female security specialist named Nanny was in place, dressed as a personal assistant. Lila was told she was Daddy's helper and took to her instantly. Nanny was warm but alert, eyes always scanning. Next, Marcus drove to the downtown precinct and asked to speak with Detective Alvarez, a contact from a charity gala fundraiser months ago. They met in a small side office. Alvarez leaned back, listening, patiently as Marcus laid it out. The recording in the mirror, the phone from Elle, the drawings, Maria's sudden exit. When Marcus finished, the detective's expression was tight. "I believe you," Alvarez said. "But right now it's circumstantial. No confirmed abuse, no visual evidence. The child hasn't made a direct disclosure." "I'm not asking you to arrest her," Marcus said, low. "I'm asking you to keep eyes on her until I can make this stop." Alvarez gave a slow nod. "We'll open a soft file. Nothing official yet, but I'll put in a request for neighborhood patrol increase." It wasn't enough, but it was a start. Back at the penthouse, Marcus returned to find Alina in the kitchen stirring tea barefoot in a satin robe. She smiled when she saw him. "You look tired," she said, pressing a kiss to his cheek. He smiled back, holding the lie steady. "Just wedding stress." That night he lay beside her, fully dressed, eyes open in the dark. Her breathing slowed. He reached for his phone, opened the voice recorder app. If he was going to get Lila out of this clean, he'd need more. A trigger. Something damning. Something she wouldn't even know she gave away. He slid the phone under the pillow, microphone up. She turned slightly in her sleep and mumbled, "Always the little ones. They make it messy." Marcus didn't move. Not even to breathe. He was running out of time. And she was already dreaming of erasure. Marcus walked into the kitchen that morning to find Alina sitting at the island, sipping her espresso, already, dressed in white linen and gold hoop earrings, glowing like she hadn't slept at all. She didn't look up. "Sleep okay?" he asked casually, forcing normalcy into every syllable. "Like a baby," she said, eyes on her phone. "Though I kept hearing movement in the middle of the night." He froze for a half second too long. "Probably Danny checking the doors." I asked her to be extra careful. Lila's been anxious. Alina murmured, setting the cup down with a soft clink. She finally looked at him, her smile tight. You think I don't know what you're doing? Marcus blinked. What do you mean? You've been distant, she said, standing slowly, walking toward him. Pretending, sending sweet little texts like we're in high school. That isn't you. And you've been in the guest room again, digging. His pulse kicked up, but he kept still. I was looking for the dress garment bag, he lied. Thought it might have been stored down there. She tilted her head. You think I'm stupid? No, he said evenly. I think you're calculating. Her expression didn't flicker, but something shifted behind her eyes. Careful, Marcus, she said, stepping closer until she was inches from his face. You're very smart, but you're not smarter than me. You were vulnerable when I met you. I made you whole again. Don't rewrite the story now. He held her gaze. Then there's nothing to be afraid of, is there? She smiled gently, beautifully. Not for me. She kissed him lightly on the cheek and walked out of the room, her heels clicking softly on the hardwood. Marcus exhaled only when the elevator doors closed behind her. That night, the penthouse was too quiet. Danny sat reading by the door, her earpiece in. Lila was in her room, had been tucked in early after a quiet evening filled with coloring, chicken nuggets, and no mention of the wedding. Marcus stayed up late, watching the security feeds from his laptop, volume low. He checked her room every 15 minutes, locked window, sound asleep, nightlight on. At 1:27 a.m., he stepped away to the bathroom for 3 minutes. 3. When he returned to the screen, Lila's bed was empty. Marcus's blood drained. He stood so fast his chair fell back. Danny, he shouted. She was already on her feet, weapon drawn, sprinting down the hall. They burst into the bedroom, window locked. No sign of forced entry. Closet open. Curtains still swaying slightly. Lila. Marcus's voice cracked as he tore back. The comforter. Lila. He ran through the penthouse, heart pounding in his throat. Kitchen, laundry, rooftop terrace. Nothing. Alina, he whispered. She took her. No one came through the main door, Danny said, checking the feed. No alarms, no noise. Marcus gripped the edge of the table to keep from collapsing. Then she was already inside. He stared back at Lila's room. The shadows seemed darker now. The silence more violent, and in the center of the nightstand, untouched, was a new drawing, stick figures, one large woman, one small child, holding hands, no sun, no hearts, just a thick black box drawn around them both. The sun hadn't yet broken through the morning haze when Marcus heard the knock. 3 soft taps on the front door, urgent, but careful. Danny moved first, gun drawn behind her back. Marcus followed barefoot, still in last night's clothes, heart thudding in his throat. He opened the door. It was Maria, older, thinner than he remembered, her dark hair tucked beneath a faded scarf. But her eyes, steady, sorrowful, and brimming with something he hadn't seen in weeks. Relief. She's in the garden, Maria said softly. In the shed. She's safe. Marcus didn't wait for questions. He bolted past her, down the stairwell, through the side entrance that led to the rooftop garden, his private escape, once a symbol of peace. Now, a prison of secrets. He reached the small utility shed tucked near the corner wall, hands trembling as he unlatched the door. Inside, curled in a ball beneath an old table, was Lila, eyes wide, hair tousled, still clutching the stuffed rabbit she never slept without. Daddy, she whispered, voice breaking. Marcus dropped to his knees and scooped her into his arms, holding her so tightly she squeaked. I'm here, he choked. I've got you. You're safe. She clung to him, tiny arms locked around his neck. He felt her body tremble. Then quietly, she whispered, Nanny told me to hide. She said, don't let the lady find you when it's dark. Marcus pulled back just enough to see her face. Did Alina come into your room? She nodded once. She was humming. But I was already hiding, he exhaled, pressing a kiss to her forehead. Back inside, Maria waited in the kitchen. Danny stood nearby, arms folded, watching every move. Marcus carried Lila to the couch and handed her a warm blanket. Then he turned to Maria. You were watching us? Maria nodded. I never really left. I've been staying across the street. I couldn't leave her, Marcus. I tried. I really did. He swallowed the lump in his throat. Why didn't you say something before? Because I was scared, she said. Alina knew things about me, about my immigration status, my family. She told me I'd be deported if I got in the way, said she'd make it look like I hurt Lila. Marcus clenched his jaw. How long have you known what she's capable of? Since Lila's birthday. She caught me reading a storybook to her, one Elise used to love. Alina got cold, she said. This house has no room for ghosts. Marcus felt the chill run down his spine. I started noticing her testing Lila, watching how long she could stand in the dark without crying. Taking away her toys, telling her she was Daddy's mistake. That's when I knew. She didn't want to be a stepmother. She wanted to erase Elise. Maria's voice cracked. She wanted to become the only woman in your life, even if it meant rewriting your daughter. Marcus sat down slowly, the weight of it all pressing on his chest. She doesn't love me, he said. She loves the version of me that's alone. Maria looked at him with deep sadness. She doesn't love anyone, she only replaces. He looked over at Lila, now fast asleep, her head resting on the couch cushion, a smear of dirt across her cheek. Then, we end this, he said quietly. No more hiding, no more pretending. Maria nodded. And somewhere behind them, the elevator dinged. Alina was back. The morning sun dripped gold across the vineyard hills as the estate bloomed to life with florists, musicians, and wedding planners rushing through final touches. Rows of pristine white chairs lined the lawn. Roses hung from trellises. Champagne chilled in silver buckets. The Westbrook wedding, already trending online as the union of elegance and empire, was moments from unfolding. But inside the manor, Marcus stood in silence before a mirror, adjusting the cuffs of a tuxedo he would never wear down the aisle. Downstairs, Lila played quietly with Maria in a private lounge under the protection of two plainclothes officers. Danny stood by the door. Elle waited in a black car just beyond the garden gate, papers in hand, jaw clenched, surrounded by two detectives from the Crimes Against Minors task force. It was time. The string quartet swelled, the crowd stood, and the aisle remained empty. Hush fell. Marcus stepped onto the platform instead, calm and composed, flanked by two groomsmen who had no idea what was coming. Thank you for being here, he said into the microphone, voice steady. I know you came for a celebration, but there won't be a wedding today. A ripple of confusion passed through the crowd. He continued. There are things you don't know, things I didn't know, until recently, about the woman I was going to marry. In the back row, Alina stepped out from behind the partition, still in her gown. Custom Vera Wang, fitted lace, cathedral train, perfectly pinned curls. She looked like a bride walking into a nightmare she hadn't written. Marcus, she called out, trying to smile through clenched teeth. What is this, a joke? He looked at her, not with rage, but with resignation. You hurt my daughter. You manipulated my grief. You silenced people who tried to protect us, but the mask doesn't work anymore. Murmurs swelled. Alina's face tightened. This is insane. You're being fed lies by unstable people. Right on cue, Elle walked through the garden arch, flanked by the detectives. Not lies, she said clearly. History. The crowd parted like water. Alina stepped back. Elle, you disappeared. I survived, Elle replied. She handed the warrant to Detective Vega, who moved forward. Alina Moreau, he said. You are under investigation for suspected psychological endangerment of a minor and obstruction of custody among other pending charges. You'll need to come with us. Alina laughed, sharp, shrill. You can't be serious. This is Marcus's daughter, his people. They're staging this. No, Marcus said softly. You did this. She turned to the crowd, eyes wide. He's lying. He's protecting his nanny, his crazy ex. Gasps, guests filming. One woman stepped back from her, hand over her chest. Alina's voice cracked. Marcus, please. You whispered to a child that she didn't belong, he said. You locked her in fear. You tore up her memories. I'm not protecting Lila from a villain. I'm protecting her from you. The handcuffs clicked around. Her wrists like punctuation. The photographers kept flashing. Alina turned once more to Marcus, mascara streaking her cheeks now. I loved you. No, he said, voice hollow. You studied me. As the detectives led her down the aisle, she never got to walk. The crowd remained silent. Only Lila, peeking from the lounge window, smiled faintly. The storm had passed. If this story resonated with you, subscribe to the channel and spread the word, and tell us where you're watching from. The headline hit the news feeds within 24 hours. Alina Gray unmasked. Bride at billionaire wedding arrested for child endangerment, identity fraud. Only her name wasn't Alina Gray. It never was. In the days that followed, the truth spilled out in pieces. Her real name was Elena Moore, born in Utah, vanished in her 20s after a string of relationships that ended in silence and shattered families. She had used at least 3 aliases: Anna Grayson in Miami, Celia Hart in Phoenix, and finally, Alina Gray in Los Angeles. Each new life began the same way. Charm, romance, control. Each ended in quiet ruin. The private investigator, Marcus, pieced it together with help from Elle. Court records, psychiatric evaluations from former partners, 2 sealed settlements, one involving a custody dispute that ended in the mother's institutionalization. The other, a quiet payout after a teenage girl was found hiding in a neighbor's shed, unable to speak for days. That girl's name was June. Marcus read every page. It didn't make him feel victorious. It made him feel sick. 3 weeks later, the penthouse was still. The wedding decorations were gone. The catering contracts canceled. The press had shifted their attention to some tech merger scandal. And Marcus? He was relearning silence. No piano music at dawn. No Alina clinking her spoon against her espresso glass. No fake laughter echoing in the halls. Just peace and grief. He sat in the garden one morning, coffee growing cold in his hand, watching Lila plant marigold seeds with Maria. Her laughter, real this time, floated up into the air like it used to. She wore a straw hat too big for her head and boots that kept slipping off. More water, Miss Lila, Maria called. Lila giggled and splashed the watering can, soaking her own feet. Oops. Marcus smiled for the first time in days. Maria looked up at him and nodded. They didn't need words anymore. Later that afternoon, as clouds rolled over the skyline, Lila padded into his office with a folded piece of paper. I made something, she said, climbing into his lap. He unfolded it carefully. 3 stick figures, one tall with a beard. Him. One with curly hair and a bright yellow dress. Maria. And one smaller figure with brown pigtails and a crown. They stood beneath a big green tree in the garden, smiling. Above them in bright blue crayon, home. Marcus felt his throat close. You drew this for me? He asked softly. Lila nodded. And for her too. She pointed to the figure with the crown. That's you, he said, kissing her head. No, she whispered. That's Mommy Elise. She's in the tree now. She watches. He blinked hard, pulling her close. She'd be proud of you. Lila smiled. I know. He hung the drawing on the fridge next to a faded photo of Elise holding baby Lila in her arms. That night, as the city lit up beneath the windows and Lila drifted off to sleep, Marcus walked the halls of the home that had nearly swallowed them, whole. There were ghosts here, yes. But there was healing too, and for the first time in a long time, the future didn't feel like something to fear. It felt like something to build. Slowly, honestly, together.